Have you ever felt that someone was different? Not just an attraction, not a simple emotion, but that strange feeling that their heart recognizes you, even before you understand why. You've wondered why, despite the silence, despite the distance, your soul always returns to that person. As if something, beyond you, refuses to let go. What if it's not an obsession? What if it's a confirmation from Allah Himself? Because sometimes what you feel isn't a test to be avoided, but a sign to be understood. A sign that that heart has been approved, not by you, but by the Creator of your destiny. Stay until the end, because if you feel this connection, it may not be a coincidence. Perhaps it's a divine response you haven't yet understood. There are people whom Allah brings into your life quietly, without fanfare, not with promises or grandiose speeches. They arrive like a discreet breeze, almost imperceptible, and yet they leave a mark on your heart that nothing can erase. You don't understand why their presence soothes you. You don't understand why, when they leave, something inside you becomes empty. It's not a dependency, nor a weakness. It's an ancient recognition, a connection that your soul seems to have known long before your body. You know, sometimes Allah places souls in your path who don't come to disturb you, but to remind you of who you are meant to become. Not to save you, but to help you find yourself again. And you ask yourself, why this person? Why now? Because there is nothing random about the encounters the divine allows. Every soul you meet carries a message. Some come to test you, others to heal you, and a few are simply meant for you. But Allah never shows you everything at once. He watches you in silence. He watches to see if you will recognize the sign He has placed before you, or if you will pass it by, distracted by your desires or past hurts. The silence of destiny is that strange space between doubt and certainty. That moment when your heart feels something your mind refuses to admit. You want to understand, you want to put it into words, but everything is beyond you. Because it's not logical, it's not human, it's divine. You feel a peace that nothing else has ever given you. Not excitement, not euphoria, but a deep, stable, inexplicable peace. As if your heart remembered an old promise, a promise made before you were even born. And that's when doubt begins to creep up on you, because you can't explain why. Why does this person inspire calm in you when others have left you empty? Why does your soul return to them even when reason tells you to move on? Allah speaks to you without words. He speaks to you through the feelings you cannot deny. Through this strange constancy, this light that stays lit even when everything seems to be going out. You try to detach yourself, you fight, you rationalize, but nothing works. Peace persists. And you begin to understand that this connection doesn't come from you. It's not your emotion, it's permission. For everything that reaches your heart without distancing you from Allah, everything that soothes you without distracting you, everything that uplifts you without consuming you, necessarily comes from a pure origin. Perhaps Allah has been preparing you for this soul for years. Perhaps all the pain you've been through was silent training to love differently. Not with fear, not with need, but with a new awareness. That of the love that leads to Him. You see, sometimes Allah takes away the people you want, to give you those your soul truly needs. And when that person enters your life, there is an almost sacred calm. You don't feel the fire of desire, but the sweetness of peace. You don't want to possess her, you want to protect her. You don't seek to be loved, you want to deserve this love. And that's when everything changes. Because this time, it's not your heart chasing a dream, it's your soul recognizing a truth. There is something invisible in this bond, something you can't prove, but you can't deny. You feel that Allah approves of this connection, not because it suits you, but because it aligns you. Destiny is that moment when Allah synchronizes two paths without warning. Two hearts that weren't looking for each other, but that recognize each other immediately. And everything you thought you knew about love fades away. Because it's no longer a matter of emotion, it's a matter of mission. Allah never unites two souls on a whim. When He sends you someone with such peace, it's not to fill a void, but to teach you to love with faith, with modesty, with gratitude. And if today you feel this strange calm when you think of this person, if despite the distance or the silence, this peace does not leave you, then perhaps Allah has simply revealed to you a sign that your mind is not yet ready to understand. And it is often in this silence, in this moment, when you no longer have any certainty but only peace, that destiny truly begins to speak. There are encounters that are unlike anything else. They aren't spectacular. They don't suddenly turn your life upside down. They enter gently, as if walking on tiptoe, and before you even understand what's happening, they've already left their mark. You didn't really choose this person. They slipped into your daily life quietly, with a simple conversation, a smile, a quiet presence. But since that day, something inside you has changed, imperceptibly, profoundly. It wasn't the love at first sight you're told about in movies. It was a sense of calm, as if your soul recognized a place it had already visited. You didn't try to please, you didn't want to conquer. You simply were yourself. And yet, something divine flowed between you. You may have found yourself praying without realizing it. Oh Allah, if this person is good to me, then bless them and make them stable in my life. Not a prayer of possession, but a prayer of acceptance, of wisdom. Because you weren't trying to force destiny, you wanted to understand it. And since that day, the signs have multiplied. Not in visible miracles, but in coincidences too perfect to be ignored. Words that arrive at the right time. Thoughts shared without having been spoken. Dreams that recall the same message. Stay patient. Everything is in the hands of Allah. You've noticed that this person doesn't push you towards sin, that they don't exhaust you, that they don't tear you away from yourself. On the contrary, they inspire you to be better, more disciplined, purer. As if Allah were using His presence to elevate you. That is the beauty of an approved heart. It doesn't need words to teach you. It reminds you of Allah without telling you. It directs you to prayer without forcing you. It invites you to peace without delivering a single sermon. And you sense that this bond is not ordinary, because it is not made of need, but of recognition. Not of expectation, but of gratitude. You don't want to possess this person. You want to protect them, respect them, like a sacred trust entrusted to you by your Lord. But this is where many go wrong. They confuse intensity with truth. They think that what burns brightly comes from Allah, when often what comes from Him doesn't burn. It shines. An approved heart is not a fire, it is a light. He doesn't consume you, He soothes you. He doesn't distract you, He aligns you. He doesn't make you run, He teaches you patience. And sometimes Allah hides that person behind trials, so that you learn to love differently, not to fill a void, but to honor a purpose. Because pure love, the kind that Allah approves of, is never a distraction, it's a direction. Do you remember those moments when everything seemed to stop? when distance was imposed, when doubts set in. You thought it was the end, but in reality, it was the test. Allah doesn't confirm a heart without testing it. Sometimes He takes away what you think you want, to see if you still pray when you no longer understand anything. He observes. Does your love depend on presence or on trust? And that's when you discover the difference between human love and divine love. Human love says, I want to be with you. Divine love says, I want to be better because of you. And that's when everything makes sense. This bond isn't a reward, it's a responsibility. Because a heart approved by Allah isn't a gift to be consumed, it's a trust to be preserved. And if this person is truly wanted for you, you won't need to run or beg. Allah will align the times, the paths, and the souls. Not right away, not necessarily now, but at the exact moment when your heart is ready to love without losing itself. And when that day comes, you'll understand why it didn't work out with others, why past pain had meaning, why every prayer, every tear, every wait wasn't a delay, but a preparation. For Allah does not give love to those who want to be fulfilled, but to those He wants to purify. And sometimes, this purification takes the form of a person who enters your life without promise, without reason, but with a peace that nothing can imitate. A peace that doesn't come from the world. A peace that cannot be explained. A peace that whispers to you, deep in your heart, you didn't choose this bond. I wrote it. And it is in this understanding, silent but burning, that you discover what an approved heart truly is. What if what you feel isn't a weakness? What if this connection, this presence, this emotion you can't explain, isn't an illusion but a divine response? You see, for months, maybe years, you've been praying. Not always out loud, often in silence. In those moments when your heart beat faster than your words, you asked Allah to send you someone who understands your soul. Not someone perfect, but someone real. What if this person was that silent response you didn't recognize right away? Not because they came to impress you, but because they came to balance you. Allah doesn't always send His answers amidst noise. Sometimes, He sends them in the form of a peaceful gaze, an inexplicable feeling, a heart that beats differently when you think of a specific soul. You think it's just attraction, but it's not. It's not a fire. It's a peace you've never known before. And through this peace, Allah is teaching you something. He's showing you that love, true love, doesn't tear you away from Him. It brings you back. You notice that since this person entered your life, you don't pray the same way. Your heart is more focused. Your prayers are more sincere. You want to be better, not to impress, but to be worthy. Does this kind of transformation come from sin? Does evil push you to become purer? Does disobedience lead you to pray more often? You already know the answer. This connection isn't there to distract you. He's here to reveal you, to help you see the version of yourself you never suspected. And perhaps this is the true answer to your prayers. Allah didn't just send you a person. He sent you a mirror, a spiritual mirror. Someone who, without even knowing it, reflects the light that Allah had placed within you, but which you had forgotten under the weight of hurt, fear, and failure. How many times have you believed you were so broken that you could no longer love? How many times have you thought your heart was too tired, too wounded, too hard? And yet, faced with this soul, you feel something new, a gentleness, a light, a clarity. It's not you who chooses to feel. It's your heart responding to a vibration that your mind doesn't yet understand. What if Allah had prepared you for this connection long before you met her? What if every trial, every loss, every loneliness was just training to recognize this precise moment? Allah didn't break you to punish you. He broke you to open you up, so that when the right soul comes along, you'll recognize them not with your eyes, but with your heart. It's not a test to see if you'll fall. It's a reminder to see if you're ready to get back up in a different way. Because approved love doesn't resemble past loves. It's calm, it's pure. It doesn't need promises because its only promise is sincerity. But be careful. Just because Allah has allowed the encounter doesn't mean He has allowed possession. This is the subtlety that few understand. Allah can send someone into your life not to be yours, but to be for you, for your evolution, your purification, your preparation. And sometimes there's the answer. Not presence, but transformation. Not union, but understanding. You think you've met a person, but in reality, you've met a new stage. A stage of yourself you didn't yet know. So ask yourself, why does this connection elevate you instead of losing you? Why do you feel peace instead of emptiness? Why does your soul find peace where your mind wanted to flee? Does it feel like temptation or guidance? What if this person isn't a distraction, but a prayer disguised as a face? A living reminder that Allah listens to you even when you think He's silent. Nothing about this connection is ordinary. Not the moment you found each other. Not the way your souls understand each other without speaking. Not the way your silences seem to say more than your words. Because Allah doesn't create spiritual gratitude without reason. This kind of peace doesn't exist by chance. This kind of connection doesn't belong to the world, it belongs to heaven. And perhaps that's why it troubles you so much. Because it doesn't come from here. It forces you to look beyond yourself, to question yourself, to refocus. This connection teaches you that it's not the other you're seeking, it's Allah through the other. So, what if this connection, precisely, was His way of saying to you, I heard you? And here is my answer. What if what you're experiencing now wasn't a distraction from the path, but the path itself? What if this was where it all really began? Imagine two stars lost in the immensity of the sky. Light years separate them. They each shine in their own corner, without knowing that one day their paths will cross. Not by chance, but by decree. That is the mystery of written encounters. They don't happen when you want them to, but when your soul is ready to recognize them. When Allah decides to unite two hearts, the outside world understands nothing. People talk about coincidence, romantic destiny, a happy accident. But those who experience this peace know it's not by chance, it's from heaven. Because the love that the divine approves doesn't begin in the eyes, but in the invisible. There are where souls have already recognized each other, long before bodies meet. It is a silent thread, woven in dimensions we cannot see, that connects two hearts that everything seems to separate. Two souls who, in the chaos of life, inexplicably continue to search for each other. It is not a noisy love. It is not a fire that burns and consumes. It is a gentle flame that illuminates without destroying. An inner light that depends neither on promises nor on time. When Allah approves a union, He protects it in silence. He does not expose it. He covers it with modesty, sometimes with distance, to purify it before revealing it. You wonder why things take time, why nothing moves forward as you want, why the distance, the waiting, the obstacles. What if all this was not a delay, but a preparation? Because Allah does not unite two hearts so that they may stray. He unites them so that they may rise. And sometimes, before bringing them together, He must first purify them. You cannot love properly if your heart is still wounded. You cannot recognize the decree if you still bear the traces of the past. So Allah cleanses, sometimes brutally. He takes away from you what destroys you. He isolates you. He makes you pass through painful silences. And just when you think you are alone, He sends you a soul who speaks the same language as yours, that of the heart. When Allah unites two hearts, they understand each other without over-talking. They don't rush. They don't impose themselves. They listen to each other. They let love settle in like morning light enters a dark room, slowly, humbly, naturally. It's not a fusion, it's a balance. Because what the divine connects doesn't fill a gap, but amplifies a mission. You don't lose yourself in this person. You find yourself through them. You don't depend on them, you walk with them. And together you learn to walk, not toward each other, but with each other, toward Allah. You then discover that true love is not horizontal. It is vertical. It isn't limited to you and me. It rises to you, me, and Him. It is in this dimension that souls truly unite. Because in this dimension, there is no more competition, no more fear, no more desperate waiting. There is only peace. That strange peace that says to you, I don't need to know how. I only know that it's written. And you feel this divine writing in the details, in the ease with which you understand each other, in the patience that settles in instead of impatience, in the faith that grows instead of doubt, in the way Allah opens paths you could never have traced alone. When Allah unites two hearts, obstacles become stepping stones, trials become reminders, and separation, sometimes, becomes a tool of purification. Do you think distance destroys? Number, it refines, it reveals what is true. Because what is written by Allah does not fade with time and does not die with absence. That is the difference between worldly love and divine love. Worldly love depends on presence. Divine love survives silence. And the more time passes, the more you understand. It wasn't you who sought this person out. It was Allah who sent them as a sign that your heart is ready to love without idolizing, to give without expecting, to walk without running away. When Allah unites two hearts, He doesn't promise them ease. He promises them sincerity. He teaches them that true love has nothing to prove. It only has to preserve itself. So perhaps if your soul still thinks of someone, even after the silence, even after the distance, it's because Allah hasn't forgotten you in this bond. He's just perfecting it. Because what is woven in the invisible is not unraveled in the visible. And what heaven has united cannot be separated by the earth. And it's often when you least expect it, when you finally stopped running, that the two stars meet again. Not because they were looking for each other, but because their light, from the start, was destined to meet again. Before light, there is always darkness. Before peace, there is always doubt. It is a silent law that Allah applies to all the souls He wishes to purify. You see, when your heart believes it has found the one, when it rests, becomes attached, hopes, Allah sometimes intervenes. He withdraws, He distances, He silences the bond, not to punish you, but to observe you in silence. It is in this silence that the truth of the heart is revealed. When nothing is certain, when you no longer know if it's over or if it's a pause, when your prayers become tears and your mind can no longer understand, that is where Allah looks. because He wants to see. Are you still searching for the connection? Or are you searching for the one who created it? You thought you loved someone, but in reality, it's your love for Allah that He's testing through them. He wants to know, when I take away from you what you think you love, do you continue to love me? It's a strange, almost sacred pain. You feel your heart breaking, but at the same time, something inside you awakens. You discover a part of yourself you didn't know existed. The one that loves beyond possession. The one that prays even when it doesn't understand. You cry, you doubt, you distance yourself. You try to sever the connection. You forbid yourself from hoping. You keep telling yourself it's over. But despite all your efforts, your soul always returns to the same place. The memory, the peace, the subtle presence that this person left behind. And you ask yourself, why do I still feel all this? Why does this peace persist despite the distance? Why does this face keep returning to my thoughts when everything seems over? Because when Allah writes something, even your forgetfulness cannot erase it. And when He wants to test you, even your intelligence cannot explain everything. Doubt is a school that only sincere hearts attend. It is there that Allah teaches you to love without idolizing, to desire without going astray, to wait without despairing. Doubt strips you, it tears away your illusions, it lays bare your faith. You realize that you had never truly trusted Allah until He asked you to let go of what you thought you held. You said, I place my life in His hands. But when He took that heart from you, you cried out, you protested, you doubted. So He let you taste absence, so that you would understand that faith is not proven in ease, but in loss. Every silence, every distance, every delay has a hidden meaning. Allah does not make you wait to exhaust yourself. He makes you wait to refine yourself. He prepares your heart to receive what He has already written for you, but does not yet give you, because you are not yet ready to honor Him. You believe your heart is ready because it desires, but Allah looks further. Is it ready to preserve, to guide, to thank? And sometimes, this bond you think is lost isn't over. It's on hold, suspended between heaven and earth, waiting for the two souls to be ready to find each other in a different way. Not in dependence, but in spiritual maturity. There comes a moment when Allah lets everything collapse so that you have nothing left to do but look up. You thought the bond was between two people, but it's actually between three. You, the other person, and Him. And it's only when you place this bond in His hands, when you stop forcing it, when you agree to say, "Oh Allah, do what's right, not what I want," that peace returns. Not the peace of everything will work out, but the peace of, even if it doesn't, I trust Him. This is where doubt ceases to be suffering and becomes a light. A discreet but real light. It doesn't answer your questions, but it calms your heart. Because deep down, you understand. Doubt is Allah distancing you from the person to bring you closer to the reason for their existence. And often, it's when you let go, when you stop hoping humanly, when you no longer seek to understand, that the truth finally appears. You realize that this heart didn't enter your life by chance. It had been prepared for you, slowly, patiently, holily. But first, you had to learn to love unconditionally, to love without forgetting Allah, to love for the good, not for the ego. And perhaps it is now, in this phase of waiting, in this doubt that exhausts and purifies you. That Allah is showing you the true meaning of the bond He had written for you, because before clarity, there is always confusion. Before encounter, there is always separation. Before certainty, there is always doubt. And perhaps it is there, precisely in this uncertainty, that destiny slowly begins to unfold. And then one day, without warning, without noise, without a spectacular sign, everything falls into place. Not because you insisted, not because you tried to understand, but because Allah decides that the time of confusion is over. It's subtle. It's not an explosion of joy, nor a miracle that turns your daily life upside down. It's a peace you can't explain, but which settles in, like the morning light slowly entering a room that has remained in darkness for too long. You realize that this peace didn't come from you. It was given to you. It's a silent gift, a sign that your soul has finally found its place. When Allah confirms, it's not the world that changes. It's your outlook. Everything that seemed scattered becomes coherent. Everything you thought lost suddenly finds meaning. You understand why you waited, why you cried, why nothing else worked. You understand that this connection, this heart you had kept in your prayer, was not a mistake of attachment, but a divine preparation. You had to go through the trial to recognize its value. You had to cross the desert to taste the source. You had to lose to learn to receive. And now, in the silence of your soul, you hear what you had never heard clearly. This person was not a distraction. They were a direction. When Allah approves, He doesn't do it with words. He does it with coincidences that cease to be coincidences, with prayers that respond to one another without having been planned, with paths that cross at the exact moment they should meet. It's an invisible weave of perfect precision. No human hand could orchestrate this. You look at your life, and everything you thought was a detour becomes a detail of the plan. You finally understand. It wasn't you who waited. It was destiny that was preparing you. Allah had placed you on the path of this soul, but He wanted you to recognize yourself in the light, not in impatience. He wanted you to know how to love for Him and not in spite of Him. So when He confirms, there is no more fear, because your heart no longer needs external assurance. He knows. He knows that this peace can only come from Him. It is not euphoria. It is a gentle certainty, a tranquility that depends neither on a message, nor on a presence, nor on a gesture. It is a state where you say to yourself, this is right, this is pure, this is deliberate. And at that moment, you no longer feel the need to possess or even to obtain human proof, because you recognize the trace of Allah in the other's heart. And that's enough. When Allah confirms, the bond ceases to be an expectation. It becomes a mission. You no longer see this person as yours, but as entrusted to you. You no longer ask why her, you say, thank you for her. There is a new depth to your way of feeling. It is no longer a fire, it is a light. It is no longer a passion, it is a peace. It is no longer a need, it is gratitude. You realize that this heart in front of yours is not just human love, it is a spiritual mirror. A living reminder that Allah loves you enough to send someone to bring you back to Him every time you go astray. And the more you observe this bond, the more you understand that it is not fragile, because it is not based on human promises, but on divine will. You may be separated by distance, time, or circumstances, but you remain connected by peace. This peace is the seal of Allah. It is His way of saying, their heart belongs to you, because I willed it that way. You no longer seek to convince. You no longer argue. You no longer doubt. You surrender to what is written. Because when Allah confirms, He removes your need to understand. He gives you the ability to accept. You are no longer afraid of losing because you know that what is for you will never be lost. And what is not for you will not remain, even if you cling to it. Then your heart is at peace. It no longer waits. It contemplates. It no longer asks. It gives thanks. Because what you are experiencing now is no longer a matter of chance. It is a matter of decree. It is no longer an encounter. It is a response. And you understand that the true miracle was not the person. It was the transformation that Allah brought about in you through them. Doubt became faith. Waiting became patience. Loss became learning. And love became worship. You look at this connection and whisper, "Oh Allah, if it is you who wanted this soul in my life, then make me worthy of protecting it." And in the silence that follows this prayer, your heart finally understands. Allah's confirmation is not a word, it is a state where your soul stops looking elsewhere, because it has recognized, in this heart, in this connection, in this moment, the reflection of the divine decree. When Allah approves a soul as yours, it's never an ordinary encounter. It's a gentle test, a sacred lesson, a reminder that pure love always comes from Him. So if your heart has recognized itself in these words, don't rush, don't doubt, don't chase signs. Simply seek Allah and see how the signs will follow you. And if you want to understand how to recognize when Allah truly unites two hearts, stay connected. Subscribe, activate the bell, and prepare for the next videos. Because the answer your heart is waiting for may be in what you'll hear next.